everybody. Welcome. Pretty big day for college football. A couple big games. One that maybe no one really expected in Iowa State. One of the first games. It was actually a pretty good game. And then we had the game last night with Ohio State and Oklahoma, which big anticipation after seeing what happened last week with Indiana and Ohio State. Really interesting to see.
And really with last year, Ohio State going into Norman and beating them up.
Yeah, so a lot of anticipation for that game. So that's what we're here to talk about. I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
And this is William.
Yay.
And we're two and a half average guys.
2.5 average guys?
Maybe even a third.
Maybe two average guys with like one
Two average guys with a super cool baby.
Yeah.
He's got his Husker gear on too, so we'll talk about the Husker game, break that down, and kind of let you know our thoughts about it. So we have our thoughts, of course, and a lot of angry people out there. We'll break it down a little bit and talk about the game. So let's talk first with Iowa State. So Iowa was actually only a 3-point favorite in that game, which surprised some people. But if you
ever watch that game though, like they just get up. I mean, Iowa State could be terrible, which they usually are.
Oh yeah.
But they always get up for that game, and it's early on in the season, so it's always kind of fun to watch. I know that the Iowa fans probably don't like it that much, because it's always a lot closer than it should be.
Yeah. Well, Iowa State. I mean, really.
They really weren't that bad, though. They looked decent.
If you watched any of their game last week, once again, they're a Big 12 team, so you don't expect a lot of defense. You do expect some offense, but then again, Iowa State's Iowa State, so you just never really know what you're going to get. With Iowa State, I said it going into the game, after watching some highlights of the game last week, and I think we even said on our show last week, is it could be a pretty decent game. They have a pretty good quarterback. They have some decent wide receivers. Their offensive line's not bad. They can run the ball. It was their defenses that was going to be the question because you always got Iowa defense. You always got Iowa that can run the ball.
Right.
So the question on how are they going to defend it, and that's where I was curious about more than anything else.
Well, and I don't know if you know this or not, but Iowa State's quarterback from last year, they basically came to him and said, you're not going to be our starting quarterback. Well, he just wanted to play.
Yeah.
So now he's a linebacker. He was their starting quarterback last year.
Yeah.
He's a linebacker. And he was in on much tackles. I mean, I'm not sure how great he played because he's at a different position now, but it's just kind of cool that, I don't really care. I'll do whatever's best for the team. I'll step up and switch to defense.
Yeah.
Sure.
So thoughts. My final thoughts on that game. Iowa was favored by 3. They ended up beating Iowa State. And they ended up beating them in overtime. So the fact that it went to overtime, I think, shocked a lot of people. This was played in Ames. So you could expect a big crowd, a rowdy crowd going for Iowa State. A lot of Iowa fans there, too. And I pointed it out, and Jason, I don't think he liked my comment about the pass interference on the second or third to last play before Iowa scored to tie it, to take it to overtime. The only reason why I had a problem with that is, yes, there's plays throughout the game that make a big difference and can really make a difference in the game, or you can point that out. But when it's one of the last drives, Iowa's last chance, and it was very clear pass interference where the guy turns around to go for the ball on defense, and Iowa receiver pushes him right in front of the ref. And it was very obvious. Now, once again, I know people are going to say, there's other interferences, but that was like the last drive.
Right.
And then so they get a first down, and 2 plays later they're in the end zone. So you can talk about how Iowa State still should have stopped them, yada yada. So I'm not trying to say Iowa shouldn't have won the game. I still think it was a pretty good game, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, it's at least fun to watch. I mean, entertaining.
It was entertaining. So Iowa wins again. They're 2-0 in the Big Ten, and beat their foes and in-state rivals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure exactly who they play next week, but we'll see come Big Ten play. It's going to be interesting because, the Big Ten looked pretty good week 1 and looked a little different yesterday. So.
It did. So we'll see. What's next on our list here? So Auburn-Clemson. That was
3 against 13 game. Fortunately, I didn't really watch much of it. There was a bunch of games on, and it's just hard to watch them all,
Yeah. I was able to watch some of them. I didn't. I don't know. The Clemson and Auburn game.
It's a 14-6 game. It was 14-6 at half, I think. I don't think there was any points.
Yeah,
because there are no points in the second half of college football game.
It really wasn't really, I think, all lived up, all the hype around it.
I mean,
they were talking about the Clemson offense, the Auburn offense. Well, really, it was the defenses that showed up, or it was the offenses that didn't show up.
Yeah, and it's got to be a combination of something, the defense must have been playing really well, or the offense is slacking quite a bit. But kind of a boring game. But I mean, close, I guess, to the point where it makes it interesting. I don't like how a game like that. It's almost like it doesn't help or hurt really either of them.
No.
So I mean, it probably helps Clemson more than anything, but like it didn't really hurt Georgia, or it didn't really hurt Auburn.
Yeah, I think they're still at 15, so they're still locked in there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of season left, a lot of tough matchups still out there. So
so I don't think Clemson really showed much to say, hey, this is where we should be at right now in the rankings. I don't think Auburn really showed anything to say we deserve to be in the top 15.
It is
what it is.
Top 15, but whatever.
So let's see. We have Stanford USC. So 42-24 USC. Now that game, was at the top of my list for entertaining games.
Oh,
this
for
weekend.
sure.
You got USC, who really struggled last weekend. It was really interesting to see what they come out with this weekend against Stanford, who once again they got a young team, call it rebuilding, if you will, for Stanford. No longer have McCaffrey. Quarterback is kind of unknown to a lot of people, so it was going to be interesting to see what are they going to do, how are they going to come out against someone like USC, and how they're going to play. So that game I thought was pretty entertaining. It really was close most of the game. USC really never let up on their lead.
Right.
And I thought, they were the better team.
For sure.
This is one of those games where you watch the entire game. Stanford actually played a good game, but USC was just better.
Yep.
And I thought they deserved that win. So very, very well done by USC.
They moved up a few spots to number 4, I think was where they started.
Yeah.
They dropped a couple after last week, and then they moved back. Yeah. Excuse me. They're going to be. I think they're going to be pretty good. That Pac-12. It's just I'm not sure. They look pretty good. UCLA has had a couple wins. Just not really sure necessarily. In Washington too.
Yeah.
Not sure who's going to come out of the Pac-12. Preseason, I think everybody was picking either USC or Washington, but
it's going to be a long stretch of games, and we'll see who can stay in that league.
Those Pac-12 teams always beat each other up, so that'll definitely be interesting to see down the stretch here.
Yep. All right. We have Georgia Notre Dame. So this was a little bit of a later game. It was an evening game, and this one really. Once again, you can talk about packed with entertainment. I didn't see too much of it, but Georgia came back. They were down. They ended up, I believe, kicking a field goal. It was 19-17, right?
Yeah.
They ended up kicking a field goal to take the lead, and that sealed the game for them. So 2019. So not a lot of high power. I don't think either team really showed. I don't think they showed their potential.
Yeah.
Defensively, I thought pretty decent game, but
everything that I've been paying attention to has said that since Georgia's quarterback was out, they had they have a freshman quarterback, but I have heard that he's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
he was pretty good yesterday.
Right, and so you can look at that and say, well, Notre Dame, you were playing at home, and you had a team come in with a quarterback to beat you, but I would like to say that, that's not a good look.
No.
But they're still finding themselves as well. They've got a new quarterback, and just like always, everybody has a bunch of new players. But a home loss to a top 15 team is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
No. And they have plenty of other teams on their schedule that are tough. And
I still think Georgia's overrated.
I think so too.
Just like Auburn, I still think they're overrated. They're winning early on, but. I think they're both still overrated. To be in the top 20 after their seasons last year, I think it's a little bit of a joke, but I'm not too shocked because just kind of the way it goes with Georgia and Auburn. They seem to always find their way up in the rankings. But once again, rankings, we hate them, but it is what it is. We have to talk about them because they're not going anywhere right now. So, Northwest. I saw Northwestern. So they lost to Duke. They didn't just lose. So talk about the Big Ten in general, but the Big Ten didn't have a good day. Northwestern got destroyed by Duke.
Yes.
So
it's kind of a shock because preseason, a lot of the experts, we always like to say that, experts.
They had Northwestern number 2.
They had Northwestern
in the Big Ten East.
In the Big Ten West. It was like a coin flip whether it was Wisconsin or Northwestern. And a lot of them were taking Northwestern to win the division. And they normally are pretty decent.
Last couple of years though, they've been.
But like a game like that against Duke, Maybe.
And it wasn't even close.
No, it wasn't.
It's not like it was a fluke and it came on the last play or last couple plays. It was just domination by Duke the entire game.
Yeah, so that's kind of, and we don't necessarily love that because they're in our division, and so.
But I also don't mind seeing Northwestern lose.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
And then let's talk about Baylor. So I think they're on a slippery slope. So you talk about what happened a couple years ago, and how I think that damaged not only recruits but just the morale of the team. Anybody that stayed, I think they're still trying to get their identity back,
right.
Due to what happened, with the whole scandal and all the assault stuff that happened, and so they're struggling to come back from that. They actually didn't do bad last year, but now they're not getting the recruits that they wanted. They're losing people on the team. They have people transfer, and you can see how that's hurting them. I mean, they lost their first week
to Liberty,
and now they lost to Texas San Antonio. So they're not losing to Big 12, Big 10. They're not losing to power. Even Sun Belt teams, they're losing to
just like they always do. They always schedule some cupcakes at the beginning of the season. Well, those cupcakes are beating you.
Yeah, the cupcakes are not cupcakes right now. They are teams that are beating them. I think it was like 17-10. It wasn't a huge win, but I mean, still Baylor. Yeah, I mean Baylor. You think about high-powered offense,
and that's I mean, obviously they had the scandal and everything at their school, but Baylor was always a school when Nebraska was in the Big 12. That was always like you see a Baylor on the schedule and you're like, oh well, that's a win. But then they got Robert Griffin and like kind of put them on the map, and they're in Texas and they can get recruits, and when you're better than Texas, you can get better recruits. Yep. But it seems like they're dropping off the map, and I'm not sure they're going to be back anytime soon.
No. So the other game yesterday, Oklahoma at Ohio State. So they went to the Horseshoe. I'm pretty sure last week I predicted that Oklahoma would win that game. And I based a lot of my decisions based on how Ohio State played their first game. You looked at the offense of Indiana, throwing for over 400 yards, and to me, a mediocre quarterback. Not a bad quarterback, but Legal is not a top quarterback in the country, probably not even a top 20, top 30 maybe. But you look at him throwing for over 400, and you look at Mayfield. Well, Mayfield's definitely a better quarterback than Legal, and so I was really interested to see how Mayfield would do against that defense. And really, the game itself, you look at Ohio State, everyone talks about J.T. Barrett over and over again. Right. Heisman contender, he's going to be back there this year. And I saw someone on Twitter was like, it's his 8th year at Ohio State, and he still can't run the offense.
Right?
He feels like he's been there forever, but really, you think of a guy, he's been there as long as he has been. Is he a 5th year senior? Is he only 4th year? I feel like it's his 5th year.
Man,
maybe he had a medical red shirt. I can't remember, but it seems like he's been there forever. But you watch him run the offense, he doesn't look like, to me, it doesn't look like a big leader on the field. He always looks like he is just beaten down. He always looks like he is just not that excited to be there. And you look at Mayfield, I cannot stand the guy. But you look at his energy on the sideline.
He just loves football.
He is pumping up his team.
He
is just out there all the time, defense, offense, cheering people on, and kind of going insane. But really, I think Ohio State lacks that leadership from their quarterback. I just don't see the energy from him. He seems like he doesn't want to be there.
It just seems like things have come so easy for him, that he's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's just another game. And
there's a lot of talk about how he was going to be one of the best this year. They said that last year too, and I still didn't feel, even though they made it to the playoff, still didn't feel like he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And at the end of the game, so Oklahoma wins the game, and pretty decisively they win that game at the Horseshoe. A lot of fans from Ohio State were gone. People were leaving because it just was not a very good game for Ohio State, and you got fans leaving the game, which happens across the country, so you can't blame the fans because it really was a butt-kicking by Oklahoma. And you look at post-game, you look at the celebration, how excited Oklahoma was, which I don't mind seeing that.
Did Mayfield run out in the middle?
So here's another reason why I don't like Baker Mayfield. So he took it an extra step. He decided to take the flag. He did like a half lap, went to the middle of the field and slammed the flag in the middle of the field. I think that's just unsportsmanlike. I mean, you didn't win a championship, and they acted like they won a championship. Now I get it. You got beat last year.
They got their butts kicked, and Ohio State, I think
they sang their song.
Whoop-de
freaking do. You went to your corner, you sang your song for Oklahoma, but then you had to take it an extra step. Now, I think that was disrespectful. I think it was unsportsmanlike. A lot of people are going to say, oh, don't cry about it. But really, look at college sports. I think Mayfield is one of the most unsportsmanlike players. I think he just doesn't have respect for other teams. And honestly, I think he's kind of just a douchebag. So I don't like the guy. He had a good game. They ended up winning the game. But really, overall, I think that, Oklahoma, you talk about quarterback. Well, look at the other Oklahoma school, Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph.
Yeah,
I think Mason Rudolph has to step up on Baker.
And
Mayfield.
we didn't have them down. They played on Friday against South Alabama. And
yep.
It was like 44-7 or something.
Yeah, but they're what 3-0 now, right? I think they've played 3 games. They played that weekend before official weekend kicked off, didn't they?
I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
Yeah.
No, I said I thought Oklahoma State was going to win the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, I'll still agree with you on that one. I think that Oklahoma State will go on to win the Big 12. I think they're better than Oklahoma. I think Mason Rudolph is better than Baker Mayfield. I think, if you will, Lil Red here,
Hey, buddy.
Lil William, or Lil Red, wearing his Husker gear, which we'll talk about in a second, but I don't think he's going to make it the rest of the show. So he's going to go see his mom.
Okay.
And Junior can continue to talk. He can look it up Oklahoma State, so hang with us.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do, just real quick.
Goodbye.
See you later, buddy. So, I'm not used to Matt's devices here, so give me just a minute. I know that, I don't think that Oklahoma State played, here we go. I don't think they played the first week. Regardless. No, they did not. So they just played Tulsa the first week. So they only have played twice. They played Tulsa last. They played on like that opening Thursday. That's probably why. They played on that opening Thursday night, which was technically opening Thursday night, but there was games the Saturday before that.
That's right. Okay.
Let's see. So they have Pitt next.
And Pitt. So Pitt played
Penn State.
And after last year,
Pitt beat them last year.
Pitt beat them last year. Pitt still doesn't have a bad team, but Penn State, they rolled over Pitt.
Pitt kept it a little close early on.
For a while.
I caught part of the replay this morning. But yeah, I think Penn State's really good.
Penn State was clearly the better team in this matchup.
Oklahoma State plays at Pitt next week, so that could be interesting to see kind of the difference between them and Penn State, who are potential conference winners.
It could be. I still think Penn State. I think they're going to win the Big Ten. I think they're better than Ohio State. I think they're better than Michigan.
Oklahoma State's schedule, man, is really shaping up. I mean, they play TCU, who's they're ranked in the top 20, but they get them at home.
Yeah, but TCU's schedule is pretty cinched too.
Right. They have to go to Texas Tech. Nah. They have to go to Texas, which is probably a tough game. Even though Texas won like 56-0 yesterday. But anyway. They play at West Virginia, who's not as good as they were last year. They actually get Oklahoma at home and K-State at home. Yeah. So, their tough games that they have are at home. So
yeah, I don't think they have much to worry about. I still think that Mason Rudolph is by far a standout quarterback compared to the J.T. Barretts and the Baker Mayfield in college football. I think you look at best quarterback in the country, and I definitely don't think you have Mayfield. Mayfield's in the top 5, but don't get me wrong, he's good.
As far as Heisman goes, since they just beat Ohio State, though, he's probably if not the front runner.
He was going to be there whether or not they beat Ohio State or not, because he's been there the last 2 years, and he shouldn't have been there the first year, in my opinion. Last year he had a good campaign, so. But really, I think this weekend that game was really good to watch. It was fun to watch. I love watching Ohio State lose. Urban Meyer looked frustrated and flustered the entire game. Maybe he was thinking about Ezekiel Elliott and all the cocaine he snorted in college. I don't know.
Hey, but he might be playing a full season now.
He's going to, which it's because it's going to take him that long to do further investigation.
You're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I don't like him. We gotta talk about it.
At least your team will be good.
Yeah, he's an Ohio State guy, so I still don't like him. But really, I think Ohio State really showed their true colors just last weekend with how they played that game. And like I said, Urban Meyer looked flustered and frustrated the entire game. Like he didn't know what to do. And you got a 34-year-old coach on the other sideline, first road game ever and Lincoln. What's his last name? Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
And Lincoln Riley goes in there, and he outcoached Urban Meyer without even blinking an eye. So really a fun game. I'm happy for Oklahoma, even though I don't like them, but I'm happy they beat Ohio State. So.
And I don't love them, but I don't.
Yeah. Michigan played yesterday.
Cincinnati.
They played Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. Cincinnati was going to be a tough game, and Cincinnati ended up being a tough game for Michigan. And once again, Michigan came out on top, but they didn't make it look easy, really. Cincinnati definitely challenged them and made them work for the win.
No, absolutely. Especially early on, Michigan had some mistakes, fumbles, just miscommunications.
Yep.
If they do that against some of the Big Ten teams that they're going to play, they might slip up somewhere. I think they might slip up, at least once this year. And it's going to make it pretty tough now for the Big Ten to, aside from, Penn State running the table.
Yeah.
Or, I guess they could still make it in there with a one loss. But
yeah, I don't know.
Now that Ohio State lost, that changes things.
I do think Penn State is the front runner in the Big Ten without a doubt,
right.
and I still think they could run the table. I think they've showed the last 2 weeks how good they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they've played with confidence. They're not making a lot of mistakes on the field,
and they're not giving up very many points.
They're not. Their defense is playing strong,
and their offense had like 8 guys back from last year.
Yes. So I think Penn State, they keep doing what they're doing. I think they're going to be sitting pretty, and hopefully. I say hopefully because it's a Big Ten team, but and because I think they deserved it last year as well instead of Ohio State getting their butts kicked. Hopefully we get some people for the Big Ten, including Penn State, really going in there and doing their thing.
And thanks for that shout out, Cornhusker Nation. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So yeah, really, you look at the AP top 10. So one thing that frustrates me was one of the first things I told you when you got here today. You got Bama, Oklahoma jumped from 5 to 2,
which is okay.
You probably saw it coming.
I don't care. That's fine.
Alabama decisive win over Fresno State, I believe.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts threw the ball like 15 times. Didn't need to.
And you look at Clemson, then you got USC, Penn State. I have nothing wrong with really the top 10. The only thing I have an issue with is Ohio State still being at number 8 in the AP. So you look at Florida State. Florida State lost to Alabama when they were 3. Alabama was 1.
Right.
You get the loss, and then they drop 7 spots to 10. Now, Ohio State loses to a team, they were 2, Oklahoma's 5. Then Ohio State only dropped 6 spots. I think Ohio State should at least be at 10 because, once again, that was not even in close to a well-played game by Ohio State on either side of the ball.
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Ohio State played at home.
And they lost.
Those other guys played in a neutral site.
Yeah. So I really think Ohio State probably should be at 10. Once again, rankings early on in the season doesn't really mean anything right now, but it kind of does because this basically means Ohio State has a shot at getting up into the playoff again.
They're just going to have to beat Michigan and
Penn State. And Nebraska.
You're right.
I'm sticking to my prediction, guys. I'm sticking to because I can't go back on it. Nebraska over Ohio State at home, and that's only if our defense decides to shore up some things in the first half of the game. So let's talk about Nebraska-Oregon. So I was worried about this game because you got Oregon who scored 77 points last week.
Right.
And once again, opening weekend, they didn't have a hard opponent. We had Arkansas State, who was no slack team with a pretty solid offense. And Oregon came out strong in the first half. They came out scoring on like 5 plays on the first drive. We get the ball and pick on the first play. I like the pass play. I like the play call. I don't mind that. Stanley Morgan had the ball in his hands, went right through off the helmet. It was kind of an unlucky bounce, but also very unfortunate for Stanley Morgan, the fact that he had the ball in his hands. Very frustrating. The ball was good. Tanner Lee threw it to where only his receiver could catch that ball. They went off his hands, off his helmet, right to them, and then they score. So really unfortunate, 14 points right away for Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon had 14 points and we'd only run 1 play.
Yeah, so that putting us down 2 TDs really hurt us in that first half, in that first quarter, in the first couple possessions.
They answered back all right. We ended up going and scoring, and at that point it was just kind of going back and forth.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, if we're actually going to come back in this game, we're going to have to get a stop. Well, at halftime, I couldn't tell you the last time we had given up 42 points at half.
42-14 and a half. So we're down 4 scores, and at that point I'm like, there's no possible way they're going to score 80 points on us.
I thought they were going to score in the 70s.
Here's what I don't get from Oregon. So they went a little conservative in the second half. Thank you, for one, but I don't really get it.
Absolutely.
They threw the ball at one point in the fourth quarter. They were saying they only threw the ball 8 times in the second half.
Yeah,
8 times.
I mean, I get it because when you're up by 28 points, you can just let's just run and run the clock out.
But at that point, we were coming back.
But
we were scoring.
Also, our run defense is pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, you have a great running back, and he ran pretty well yesterday.
Yep.
But I'm not sure why they went as conservative as they did, because I don't know how you score 42 points in the first half and 0 in the second. We didn't make that many great adjustments in the second half.
And we made some adjustments, but
we
the
did.
fact that they only threw the ball 8 times.
I think they made better adjustments than they did in the first game.
Yeah.
From first half to second half.
And I think you look at this game, you look at last week's game, you look at the 3-4 defense, and you wonder, is this really do we have the players to run a 3-4? We're getting burned in the middle of the field more than anything else. We're not really getting beat downfield deep. That's not the biggest problem on our defense.
No.
It's the cross routes in the middle of the field. Teams are still going to be able. Anybody who watches film, I think one of the first plays, the first possession for Oregon, right away I turned to someone and I said, "Well, they watched film from last week.
They know they can throw the ball like 8 yards every play.
The swing passes, the left and the right passes,
yep.
That hurt us in that first half. And I think they watched film because they clearly knew how to beat us left and right and then down the middle.
Well, one thing that was interesting was, the best player we have on defense is Joshua Kalu. And he got hurt in the first half, and he did not play in the second half. And we didn't give up any points in the second half. I'm not really sure how that works.
Yeah, Gifford said we had guys that stepped up.
Gifford got hurt a little bit there too.
Yeah, he came back out.
And he's great. I think he's great.
Yeah.
There's a few guys that are really good, but as a whole, I just I don't know. I don't know what I don't think it's necessarily the players. I don't know if it's necessarily the schemes or
I think it's a little bit of both.
Because I think that the guys we have are pretty talented. It's just you can't just give them 8 free yards every play. That's what it seems like they do.
Once again, we don't have the bump and cover. We don't have that. I'm going to jam you at the line. You have 5 yards to jam somebody, and we have guys that are seven yards back before the ball snapped. That's not helping us. Those quick passes. I don't think we're quick enough to get to the ball on those quick passes.
No.
And then by the time we get up there, we don't make the tackle. Or if we do, they already have 5-6 yards.
And it's going to be all year. We might go a stretch without any sacks because everybody knows that you just got to drop back and just throw it out there. We're not able to get any pressure. And
well, that's the risk you run with the 3-4. So one thing we haven't seen yet was a blitz package. You don't see the linebackers, the corners, and when we do, we're blitzing late. It's like a delayed blitz.
And when we do, they go down the middle of the field for 30 yards.
They read it. So we need to be a little more. We need to hide it better. Or we need to bring it from all different angles more throughout the game. So if we're only bringing it
every play, you need to show something and then back off or come around on the other side or something.
Yeah.
But it's pretty tough to watch on defense.
So once again, obviously we're not coaches. We're sitting on the couch. We are coaches from our living rooms.
We're the smartest guys in the room when when you're watching the game, of course.
Naturally, yeah. But no, we enjoy watching the game, and we're not here to be super critical. But you see the potential for the team. Our offense struggled yesterday. Really the 4 interceptions that killed us. And really, for those of you that are calling for Tanner Lee to be benched and bringing Patty O'Brien, I want you to stop right now. Tanner Lee is much improved. The one thing we lose with Tanner Lee that we've had in the last decade of quarterbacks, actually forever with quarterbacks that I can remember since I was a kid, is a quarterback that can run the ball. Tanner Lee doesn't run the ball. They don't have very many designed runs for a quarterback anymore. It is truly a passing quarterback.
Now, the bad thing is that he if he's getting pressure or something, he's not gonna roll out and go for a run.
No.
But at the same time, he's smart enough about getting rid of it in the right way.
Yeah.
Maybe throwing one away or whatever.
Which
is great because that's not what we've had.
No.
But when you take it away, the possibility of picking up 3 to 5 yards, now you're looking at 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10 instead of a 2nd and 5 or 3rd and 5, and then everything just kind of changes from there. But Tanner didn't have his best game.
No.
4 interceptions. Now, Stanley Morgan dropped that one on the beginning. And then the last one, which was so difficult because, you know, with the way the game was going, like, there was, like, a few things that needed to happen for us to have a chance. And they happened. And it was like, man, it's all lining up so that we tie this ball game up. And we get a huge stop. I mean, we basically had to stop him 3 times and call 3 timeouts. Yep. And we did. And it was like, man, I'm not quite sure how we did that, but that's awesome. We get the ball back. And then the first play, you know, he drops back to pass, and it kind of looked like he threw it right to that guy. Yeah. Obviously, his arm got hit, and that's why the ball went away and went right in. Yeah. It was just like, man, why couldn't at least we have a shot at the end zone?
But I think we showed that not only can we come back from a deficit. Yes, Oregon didn't play very conservative in the second half, but most teams do when they get a lead like that. So I want to give some props to our offense for keep going, and our defense for playing strong. We still had to stop the run. They still have high power running backs and a fast team, and we did a good job of stopping that. So props to the defense. We made some adjustments. We did a little bit better in the second half, obviously not allowing any points after 42 in the first. Our offense showed up in the second half. We started making some moves. Trey Bryant had another good game. Will Vaughn came in, had a good game.
Well, Bryant got hurt. I'm still not sure why they don't. Like, I watched the Oregon game from last week, just because I wanted to, because I like to do that kind of stuff. But Zigbo, we gave him the ball a bunch in that game, and he was just running over him.
Oh, we gotta find out. Like, is he hurt? There's something going on.
I don't know.
Is he ineligible?
No.
Okay, because he hasn't seen a snap yet, so I'm worried. I think something's got to go on. Something's going on with him.
Either there might be, especially since they said that that freshman, Bradley or whatever from Bellevue, is going to play.
Yeah. So
which I don't know if I agree with. I'm not sure why we don't just redshirt him.
There's got to be something going on with the Zigbo, but we'll have to find out.
Because he tore it up against them last year, and no carries. I mean,
we'll see.
Like, I'm not a moral victory guy. Like, I'm not like, oh yeah, we came back and like it was a close game. That made it fun to watch at least. Yeah. And it, you know, but
oh well.
I don't know. We got to win some games, and we're gonna have to figure something out on defense. I think. So.
All right, so let's talk about some games for next week. Let's give you a rundown of what we got next week. So some of the bigger games, you got Notre Dame at Boston College. Now. Some people might think it's not a big game. Now, that's always an intriguing game. Boston College, I believe, last year beat them in the rain at Notre Dame, if I remember correctly. It was like a 2-point game or something. They ended up winning. And if Pooty, if you're watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure because you were super mad about it. But I think that could be a good game with Notre Dame going to Boston College. Notre Dame still has a lot of potential. Can they get there? The young team,
right?
They're going to build up. They're going to be good in a few years, but they are not a caliber team this year where they're going to maybe even finish in the top 25.
Oklahoma State at Pitt right off the bat, 11 a.m.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one because it's going to be a good game.
I kind of like Oklahoma State. I mean, I think that, like I said, I think they're going to win the Big 12. But
I like the Cowboys.
Go on the road a little bit. Go on the road and see what they got.
I'm gonna pick Oklahoma State in that one. I'm gonna pick Notre Dame over Boston College too. Those are both at 11 o'clock next Saturday.
Oh yeah, I think Notre Dame won that game.
Northern Illinois at Nebraska. So Northern Illinois, bring it on. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how that game goes. Northern Illinois
They lost to
Boston College, not only by 3 though. And then EIU, Eastern Illinois University, maybe.
Eastern Illinois, I suppose.
So, Northern Illinois coming into our house. I don't know the last time we played them. It's probably been a few years, but I think I'm going to pick Nebraska on that one.
I certainly hope so.
I really hope.
I hate the 11 o'clock game, but
that's all right.
I'll just give the rest of the day to watch football.
Let's see, who else we got? Baylor and Duke. This could be another loss for Baylor.
It's at Duke, too.
Considering Duke just destroyed Northwestern. I might have to take Duke in that game.
There you go. So the game day, which I saw, is Clemson at Louisville. I don't know, I mean...
Louisville really didn't look that strong yesterday either. They didn't play their best game.
They score some points, I mean...
Yeah, but...
They're not going to do anything too special, I don't think, this year.
I don't see it now. 47-35 over North Carolina. So they struggled with Purdue.
They played on the road at North
Not
Carolina.
a decisive game against North Carolina, but not bad.
It's all right.
North Carolina is a good team, so it was a win. It's a good win. But you got an unranked North Carolina. You beat by 12 on the road. They moved up, I think, a couple spots to 14. So, but Clemson, once again, I don't think really showed us much yesterday. They didn't really show us much in week 1. Week 1 they scored a lot of points. Their offense is
week 1 they were good.
Their offense is going to be good this year, but that's a tough one. I think Clemson's going to win that game. It's at Louisville though. I do expect that game to be close. I might have to pick home game for Louisville. What do you think?
I'm gonna go Clemson on that one.
Now remember last year. What happened last year at Clemson? Louisville should have won that game.
Yeah, the dude just
the guy ran out of bounds, like the 2-yard line.
On the last play of the game when the clock's expired, and he runs out of bounds. Like, bro,
he didn't even stretch for the end zone.
Give it a try.
I think Louisville should have won that game, but I still think Clemson's the better team going into next week. But I do think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to take Clemson, but I think spread's maybe going to be 6. I don't see it be any more in Clemson's favor than 6 points.
Yeah.
Being at Louisville.
Wisconsin at BYU is interesting.
So we didn't really talk about Wisconsin yet. We didn't talk about their game yesterday.
They played the Fighting Lane Kiffins.
They played FAU. Really 31-14, so not a decisive win. They played.
It was 24-14 at halftime.
And they played at home.
What a boring game.
They played at home. So
really boring game.
Wisconsin, Florida Atlantic got destroyed last week.
By Navy. And they were picking Florida Atlantic to win that game.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think Wisconsin, still think they have a lot to show this year. Being at number 10, I'm like, are they number 10? I don't know. A lot of games left to play in the season. BYU's going to put up a test to them. So
BYU lost the first week.
BYU played Utah.
I'm sorry.
They played 3 games.
They did that. Yeah, they played that first Saturday. And they won that. Then last week they got shut out by LSU on the road.
Yep, and then they lost yesterday to Utah. So I still think it's going to be a
pretty tough schedule.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game, but I think Wisconsin's going to take that game. It's at BYU. I got Wisconsin by 13.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounded a little intriguing in them going on the road. We'll see what they got.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Tennessee and Florida, 23-24.
So Florida.
Are they going to play that?
I don't know.
Because if you look here,
it's just going to depend on.
Apparently, well, no, we'll get there.
So Tennessee, Florida. That's always an intriguing matchup. God, who won that game last year?
Oh, Florida wins every year. Tennessee always pisses it down early at some point, which is what actually.
I don't remember what happened last year, but either way, we got Tennessee at Florida. Really, I wasn't impressed with Tennessee in the first game. Yeah, you won in double overtime.
Not impressed with Florida either.
No,
so.
Not impressed with Florida. Michigan handled them pretty easily. I don't even want to pick the winner of that game.
I don't really care.
Don't care. Moving on. Not even going to pick it.
Even though it could probably be one of the best games of the week,
But really, typically those games aren't that good. They
I mean, close. It'll probably be like a 14-10 game or something.
So Army at Ohio State. Army is one of those teams that runs the triple option.
That could be interesting.
Over and over again, just like Navy, just like Georgia Tech. So that game could be interesting. Ohio State, after a loss, they're playing at home again against Army. Go Army, but I think Ohio State's going to win that game, but it might be close. Who knows?
Yeah. What was the one I saw? LSU at Mississippi State. It's an SEC matchup. Let's see. Oregon at Wyoming's interesting. I know Wyoming, I know that they didn't score a lot against Iowa the first week. They only got 3 points. I'm not sure. They won 27-0
against Weber.
Against Weber.
Yeah, so that's not much of a game.
Interesting, Oregon going to Wyoming. I've been to Wyoming. It's like a high school stadium.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Wyoming always shows up against the big
Oregon's
teams.
fast. They're fast.
But Wyoming always shows up against the big teams, no matter who they're playing. So it could be an intriguing game.
And they got a quarterback that's supposed to go in the first round next year.
Either that or Oregon's going to put up 70 points on them. So we'll see. I got Oregon in that game. I don't think it's going to be that close. Penn State's got Georgia State, not much of a game. Kansas State, Vanderbilt, K-State's going to win that one. I mean, Vandy sometimes shows up, but this year...
Northwestern better watch out. Bowling Green is not a terrible team.
They're not. And Bowling Green's coming to your house, Northwestern, so I don't even know if I can pick Northwestern after they got destroyed by Duke. That's a tough game to pick.
Yeah, that'll be. What else? Arizona State and Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Texas USC was good at the preseason. That was a good third week game. It's at USC. They're gonna roll Texas up.
If Texas surprises anybody, comes out and wins that game, USC will drop probably out of the top 15 if they lose to an unranked Texas at home. A Texas who's 1-1.
Losing to Maryland first week.
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't think USC will, but I think that could be one of those sleeper games to watch this weekend to really see how Herman and Texas coaches prepare for that game against USC. Once again, USC struggled that first week. They didn't. Right. They won yesterday, but it was still a good game against a good Stanford team. So Texas, I don't think Texas is a terrible team, but how are they going to prepare for USC playing at USC?
Tom Herman gets up for those big games. I mean,
I'm telling you, it's a night game. It's a 7:30 game. I'm going to tell you right now, that's a sleeper game that people need to watch because I think it could could be a fun game to watch.
Now I'm going to give a quick shout out to Fresno State if I can.
Mm-hmm.
They played Alabama this week, and then they're turning around and playing Washington this week. Those are two teams that were in the playoff last year. I know that you're not necessarily expected to win these games, but props to whoever sets up their schedule for setting up some tough... Miami at Florida State, which is probably one of the best games of the week. It says postponed.
It's already postponed.
Is that true?
I don't know.
Are these teams just supposed to play this, not play half their season?
I mean, here's the thing. So these teams...
Can they not move these games to elsewhere?
They should be able to get out of the state. I mean, they shouldn't be there anyway. So if they're already gone...
They shouldn't be. I'm not saying, that football should be ahead of this hurricane and all the bad things that are happening.
But they're already not making up those games from yesterday.
But they
said those games aren't being made up.
They can't be there. So they have to be somewhere. Can't they be somewhere and play?
Is
that selfish?
Well,
is that selfish to say?
No. But here's what happens. This is what's going to happen towards the end of the year. Is you got maybe a Florida State, maybe a Miami. I'm maybe taking a long shot for both teams that could potentially be in the top 10, maybe even in the top 7.
Or a conference champion.
Yeah, but how does that affect them? Even a conference champion, how does that affect them if they miss 1 or 2 games and they don't make them up? I think
that game they would almost have to make up because those are conference games.
I mean the conference games
those are to figure out who wins the conference championship. So who goes to the conference championship game?
So it does say postponed, which means it's probably going to be played again. But they did say and clarify that the games from yesterday are not going to be replayed. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with those teams.
That was kind of a bummer because I wanted to see how Arkansas State did against Miami to kind of judge how our first week went. But
yep.
Obviously, after yesterday, we have some things that we need to get figured out.
We
do. Hopefully, we get them figured out and get Northern Illinois taken care of pretty quick, so we don't have another freak out week.
Yep.
But
that's what we try to avoid.
So
Nebraska. A lot of heavy breathing again in Nebraska yesterday.
Right. So this third week was. Probably preseason was looking better than it does now. There's not a ton of great games, but let me rephrase that. There's not a ton of projected great games, but as we all know, there'll be some great games.
So once again, thanks for joining, Husker Nation. Thanks for the shout out. Look forward to maybe partnering with you this year.
If you got a team that you want us to talk about, just hit us up. We can do some research and talk about whatever you guys want us to talk about.
Either that or we'll shut you down because we hate the team. Whatever.
That's probably what'll happen.
So that's all we got this week. Appreciate you guys watching. We had some views today, so Once again, we had a visitor today. First visitor.
First.
Third season. He may be little. He may not make a lot of noise, but
he didn't quite make it through the whole thing, but that's okay.
He sure does move a lot. So that's my little man wearing his Husker gear today.
Yes.
He is a Husker fan. Once again, Huskers hang in there. Husker fans hang in there. Got a long season left to play. Got to remember, new coaches, young team, young defense. We got a lot of things to look up to. So go Big Red, go Huskers.
Yep.
College football coming back at you Thursday night. We'll be back again next Sunday to talk about next weekend, tell you how the games break down.
And we'll also look forward to the first week of conference play.
Absolutely. So that's all we got. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we're Two Average Guys. Thanks for tuning in,
guys. We'll see you next week.
Next week.